The good news is we've just hit 1,000 subscribers and we're just getting started.
Well, what? Seriously though, the support has been amazing, so thank you for watching. But enough of that, we have a game to make. Okay, so we're still playing about with this rather crude map, which we'll definitely need to build properly soon, but for now I've been playing around with our key system. Now, in our last episode we looked at how we could use a tool and then detect when that tool hits the door in order to open it. Now, there's two main problems with this setup, which a lot of you actually pointed out in the comments. First of all, it'd be cool if we could just click the key to select it rather than having to run over it. And also, what if a player collects multiple keys? We don't want one player running around the map hogging them all for themselves. That just makes for a rubbish game. Now, we could sort all of that out, but this got me thinking. Why even use a tool system at all? Because one of the things that I find annoying with games like Piggy is it's actually impossible to know which items a player is carrying unless they have it equipped. This means sometimes you can be running around the map looking for something that somebody has already found. Instead, I thought it'd be way cooler if it always displayed what you were carrying. And so, I present my custom key solution. Now, the first thing you'll probably notice here is I decided to make the keys absolutely massive. This makes them easier to spot, but I also think it looks kind of cool. You can click them to pick them up and it'll instantly appear in your hand. You can even swap the keys back and forth, and I added a groovy little rotation each time. You can use them on the door like before, but this time, once you've used the key, it destroys itself so you don't get confused and try to use it again. Finally, if you die while carrying the key, it simply drops to the ground wherever you died, so another player can pick the item up, and all is not lost. So, how did I make all this? Well, as always, watch to the end of the video to find out. So the first thing I did is I selected the tool and added in a click detector. As you might have guessed, this allows us to detect when there is a click. So even if we run the game without any script, you can see how the cursor changes when we hover over it with the mouse. Now we just need to write a script to detect it. So a click detector uses an event called mouse click, which will trigger the function to run. This is kind of like the touched event that detects when there's been a collision with a part. But this time, instead of receiving the part that's causing the collision, hit, the event tells us which player has clicked it, the player. So if I just ask it to print out the player, now when I click the key, you'll see my name will appear in the output. Now the tool object is basically just a container. So seeing as we're not using it anymore, I can just move the part out of the tool, back into the workspace, delete the tool container that we're not using, and rename the part to key. Time for some scripting. Right, so seeing as we've got the player, let's start by creating a variable for the character. So the character will be equal to the player.character. And then what we need to do is we need to take this key, which is currently inside the workspace, and we want to send it to the character. Let's create a variable for the key as well. Local key is going to be equal to script.parent, which in this case is the click detector, and the parent of that, which is going to be the key. So we want the key's new parent to be equal to the character. And then we want our key to appear in the character's right hand. So we're going to adjust the key's C frame, which is a positional value. And we're going to set that to be equal to the character's right hand dot C frame. So if we run that, let's see what happens. We can go over to our key, we can click it. And you see the part is going to appear in our right hand and then it's just going to drop to the ground. Now, one of the things that the tool container does for us, it creates a weld between that part and ourselves. So let's create a weld. Okay, so local weld is going to be equal to instance.new, and we're actually going to use a weld constraint here. And then a weld, it needs a parent first of all, so we'll set that to the key. And then the weld, it needs a part 0, because the weld attaches two different parts. So the first part we want to attach it to is the key, and then we want the key to be attached to, so part 1 will be equal to the character's right hand. So now if we run this, head over to our key, click it, and it's going to appear in our hand, and now we can move around and it's going to carry with us because it's welded to us. Now this isn't quite the position I want, it's going right through our shoulder here and it looks a bit awkward. So what we need to do is rotate it. So we can adjust this C-frame value and multiply it by C-frame.angles, which will allow us to rotate it. Now this takes an X, Y and a Z rotation, but the important thing to be aware of is it doesn't actually take degrees, it expects radians, which is a division of pi, mathematical pi. But seeing as we're just going to use degrees, we can use a function called math.rad, which converts our degrees from radians. So let's try and rotate it 90 degrees on the x-axis, 0 on the y, and then on the z, we want to rotate it, let's see, 180. So now if we run this, so we'll pick up the key again, and now we've got it facing forwards, and it looks a bit more like a key you might carry. But what if we have two keys? Well, what's going to happen is we're going to be able to pick up the first one, and then when we pick up the second, we're going to pick that up as well. So we're going to end up having two keys like that. That's clearly no good. So let's go back into our script here. And before we start picking it up, what we need to do is we need to check if the character currently contains a key. Because remember, we set the key's parent to be the character. So we know the key is inside the character. That sounds a bit odd, doesn't it? So we're going to find first child, which will look inside the character for the key. And if that's true, if it does find a key, then, so we can say local old key is going to equal that. So that's going to be the old key. And then we can move that old key, is parent, we want it to move back into workspace. And then we're going to need to destroy the weld we created because we don't want the key to be still attached to your hand. So old key dot weld constraint, and we can destroy that. And then all we need to do is change its C-frame. So we can change the C-frame and we can set that to the key that's lying on the floor. So we'll just swap them, shall we? So old key.C-frame is going to equal the new key's C-frame. And to jazz things up a bit, we could even add in a rotation. So we could say multiply by C-frame.angles. And I don't know, shall we rotate this by 45 degrees or something? Let's try 0, 0. So we'll say math.radian 45. And then we just need to copy the script into the other one as well. So which one did we just change? It was that one. So we copy that, delete the old one, and now we've got two different keys, different colors, but other than that, they're identical. Let's test. So we can pick up the first key, got the yellow key, pick up the blue key, and now we can switch between them both, and they're going to keep rotating us around when you switch between them. Groovy. So now we can just use our key and open the door, right? Oh, wait, no we can't. Now, if you remember, inside our script, we're checking to see if the thing that's hitting it, if its parent is a tool, and none of this applies anymore. The thing isn't a parent anymore, so we can just check if we can get rid of this bit entirely. The next bit checks if the parent's name is key. Well, it's not the parent anymore, it's just the object itself named key. And then we're using this brick color thing you remember before. Now, we don't actually need this. If you have already given your keyhole like this, if you've given your keyhole a color, then what we can do is we can remove checking the value of the key, and instead we can just check the current color of the keyhole part, so the keyhole.brick color. And then if you're doing that there, then we can remove this line as well. And then once we've destroyed the keyhole, we might as well destroy the key as well. So we know that the name is going to be key, so we know hit is equal to key, so we can just destroy whatever is hitting it. Okay. And then we'll just copy and paste this script into the others. We can delete the key object now and copy and paste that into all of these. And let's give that a try. Pick up our key, open the door, and it opens, and we've no longer got the key. But what about keeping the key on death? If I click and reset my character, then you can see we've got the key here, but then when the player reloads, I no longer have the key, and the key's disappeared as well. That's because we put the key inside of our character model. See if I select it here, and then I select the key. You'll notice the key then appears inside our model, and when we die, everything in this model gets destroyed. So in order to fix this, let's write a new script. So we're going to go into server script service, and we've got this one that changes the animations, and we're going to add in another script. And we're going to name this one on death, and then we're going to check for each player that gets added. So game.players.player added, connect it to a function for when the player is added. And then when this function runs, we want to check for the character added. So then this function is going to only run when they get the players, and this function is only going to run once there's a character. So once there is a character, then we want to check when they die, and we can do this through the humanoid. So the humanoid is equal to character.humanoid, and then humanoid dot, and we use the died event, and now we're going to connect it to yet another function. So this is a function within a function within a function, and then what we're going to say is character.key.parent equals, and set it back to workspace. Now, ideally you don't want millions of scripts all with quick code like this. So later on, we'll probably combine some of these scripts into one single script, but this will do for now. Let's go ahead and run this. We'll pick up a key, and we can see the key is inside of our model here. I'm going to go and click reset, and we can see the key has then appeared back inside the workspace now. So when I reload, you can see there it still is.
Super.
Okay, so now we've got our key system set up again, or perhaps we should say we've refined it. Either way, we can now start to move on to some fun stuff. Incredibly, there's been over 500 comments on the last video with suggestions, and it seems like most of you are looking for crouch abilities or an actual map, along with millions of other stuff, so we'll probably have to get something sorted there. As always though, feel free to spam me with even more suggestions down in the comments, and if you want help with your own scripting, then I'll try to respond, or you can hop over to our Discord, link will be in the description. But that's all for now. I'll see you guys later.